Really appreciate all of you being here. It's great to be in a room full of folks who love blowing rock. What a great community we have here. Wonderful, wonderul beauty of the community, and the people are even more beautiful. And thank you all so much for being here. Let's start our meeting, if we may, by asking one of our distinguished citizens, Tucker Yates, to lead us in a word of prayer. Tucker?
George, I don't know about that distinguished part. Let's pray. Our Father and our God, before we ask your blessing upon this event, we thank you for the privilege of doing so. And indeed we do, Lord, ask you to bless this meeting. We thank you for the Blowing Rock Civic Association, for its leadership, for its purposes, and its accomplishments. Lord, we just want to thank you also for the privilege of living in this beautiful area, certainly unique in all the world, and how grateful we are. Now, Lord, we do ask your blessing. Bless our speakers. Bless our group. Be with us all, Lord. In Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, John. Certainly appreciate that. I'm pleased now to recognize some special guests that we have with us, and I'd like to ask them to stand for some applause, if I may. First, I'm delighted to recognize the Honorable Mayor of our town of Blowing Rock, the Honorable J.B. Lawrence. I would next like to recognize an honorable distinguished member of our town commission, and that is Commissioner Ray Pinion. Ray, would you please stand? Now, we've heard from our other commissioners, all send their best greetings and wish they could be with us, but our fine person on the commission, Sue Sweeting, his mother has died out in California, and she's there, and would you all please remember her in your prayers, if you would, please. And our Commissioner, Albert Yount, is down at the American Legion Hall trying to save the charter of the American Legion. American Legion here has had a distinguished history of service to our great community, and they're down there now talking about the future of that great organization. And I have a tremendous memory and association with that organization because I was privileged years ago to be a delegate to the American Legion Boys Nation in Washington, and they enabled me to meet with President Eisenhower. Now, I know that sounds like a long time. It wasn't Calvin Coolidge. But anyway, a great memory and something I treasure, and what a great organization that is. And also, our Commissioner, Dan Phillips, they've had a little bit of a catastrophe with Celeste Force, and they're with them trying to do some good with that. And hopefully he's going to be here later, but Commissioner Doug Matheson also had a conflict and unfortunately was not able to join us, but they all sent their best regards, and I'm grateful for that. This is going to be a very interesting program tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I think that you will enjoy it and be enlightened by it. We're in a time of change in Blowing Rock, and in fact, it astounds me the amount of change that we're experiencing in this small community. And change is not all bad. I read something that a gentleman said that I thought was very much appropriate to the occasion. He said, if anything is certain, it's that change is certain. The world we're planning for today will not exist in this form tomorrow. And I think that's something to think about. Blowing Rock has a great history, a great heritage, and that heritage is mixed in with a lot of outstanding people. And you know, you think of the great people who have meant so much to this area. Just think what this area would have been like if we hadn't had Moses Cone and Julian Price, if we hadn't had the Cannons involved, if we hadn't had the Broyhills involved. and many others over the years. And also just think what it would have been like if we hadn't had the Robbins family involved, doing all the great things they've done in promotion, the pits, the coffees, Lenses, all the great local folks who've done so much for this community. I'm grateful for them. And having come from a small town myself, I can sort of identify with this town because I came from a town very much like Boone. And the small town environment here is just terrific. One of the things I think is living in a small town kept me out of a lot of trouble because I can tell you if I did something bad, the news got back to the house before I did. In a small town, everybody cares about what you're doing and keeps an eye on it, and they're very solicitous of you in trouble and times of need, and God bless all of you for that. It's a wonderful thing to be in a community like this. Now, the Blowing Rock Civic Association was formed to give a voice to everyone in the community. Now, some people in our community are probably in a situation where they have not had quite the opportunity to be heard that perhaps is good. We're of the opinion that democracy is best served by having the greatest number of people expressing their opinion about things and all the stakeholders in this community. This community is an unusual community. It has a number of stakeholders. Of course, the folks who, long-time residents here, there are folks who own homes here and are not here full-time, but still have a great amount invested in this community, both financially and personally. And of course, there are many other people in the community who have businesses, own property, and so on. And some of these folks are voters, and some of them aren't. And so one of the things we're doing and encouraging you to do is to register to vote here in Blowing Rock. We vote here in Blowing Rock. And we have a great interest here. For example, if you're voting in Charlotte, your vote is going to be pretty small compared to the number of votes cast in an election. Up here, your vote could be decisive and important. And this organization is not endorsing candidates, but we do endorse the concept of your being active in this community and active in the decision-making process in this community that vitally affects you. And so we'd ask you, if at all possible, to register to vote up here, because your vote will be meaningful and your voice will be heard. Now, we've been involved in some activities with regard to the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the project out here on the widening of Highway 321. And there seems to have been some real step up in activity out there just in the last few weeks. And we're very grateful for that. I'm going to ask our board member, Lee Dunstan, to come forward, please, and give us a report on that.
Thank you, George. Many of you attended a meeting in the very late part of June where Mike Holder, who is the chief engineer for the Department of Transportation for the state of North Carolina, and Mike Pettijohn, who is the chief engineer for this district, this highway district, were both there. And I think, at least if you had the same impression I did, they couldn't stop nodding their head yes, which we thought was great. So of course the obvious thing to do is let them have time to get themselves organized about what they're going to do, the plan they're going to put together to speed up the completion of this road, and then call and talk to them and get an update. So that's what I did. I called Mike Pettijohn on July 31st. Gave him a little bit more than a month to get everything squared away. And I had noticed more work out there too, so I called him. And we had a lovely conversation. It was a really good conversation. And then, so that there's no misunderstanding, I want to read you two emails. My email to him, summarizing our conversation, and his email back to me in response to my email. So here's my email to Mike Pettijohn, Chief Engineer for this district. Hello, Mike. Thanks again for what you and the DOT are trying to do to speed up the completion of 321 through Blowing Rock. Our members and all the folks in Blowing Rock are anxious to know what has been proposed to speed up the completion, and below in this email is my understanding of what you believe is the current DOT plan. Number one, in general, with some exceptions to accommodate holidays and special events, the DOT will work with the contractor to achieve a, quote, dawn to dusk, close quote, work schedule. You indicated that the dawn may not begin as early as true dawn to accommodate Blowing Rock businesses and early AM traffic. 2, this will require additional crews that will begin shortly. 3, this will also require some coordination with the town of Blowing Rock, and those discussions have taken place and will continue to take place as either the town or the DOT think necessary. Mike, the general outline above is what I understood from our telephone conversation and want to be sure that we are on the right track for informing our members and the other folks in the community. Mike's response the same day. Lee, I enjoyed our conversation this morning and I appreciate your efforts to keep everyone updated. I think you captured the points very well. One thing on point number 1, the town is fine with the dawn work outside of traffic, but requests that we try to hold off lane closures before 8 a.m. for commuters and school traffic. As you stated in point number 2, the contractor is mobilizing additional crews. One in particular is another crew to help with the duct bank, since this is a slow but controlling operation. As you stated, we will continue to work with the town to make any adjustments that may be necessary based on the events in the town and community. So, what I take from this is additional crews, dawn to dusk, cooperate with the town of Blowing Rock. We will see and we will monitor. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lee. Now, lest we think the world is not busy around our little town, they're busy over in the state legislature, and I wanted our distinguished executive director of the Blowing Rock Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Charles Hardman, would you come forward, please, and give us a rundown of just what's going on and what we can do about it. And I appreciate all your good work with the chamber. Thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you, George. Thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. It's great to see this many folks that are interested in the future of Blowing Rock. There is a legislative issue before the state Senate right now regarding sales tax redistribution. Some of you may be familiar with it.
Charles, would you ask everybody's here? We're not, can you start?
Get closer.
Yeah, just hold it.
Just hold it. That'd be good.
Start over.
All right, I'll start over. There is an issue in the state legislature right now revolving around state tax redistribution. This is a phased-in proposal. It's part of the state Senate's budget. It definitely creates winners and losers across the state. Most of the winners in this bill are rural areas, sparsely populated areas, not on the coast and not up in the western part of the state. The losers in this bill are clearly those counties and towns that are very dependent upon tourism for their economy. Guess who we are. Large metro areas also somewhat, some of them are in the losing category, but their percentages are fairly low, but on their budgets, it's a lot of money. Watauga County's loss in the current bill is about 11% of what they're receiving currently, or 1.3 million in 4 years. Blowing Rock's loss is also very high, about 8% of our town's budget, which would amount to $115,000 a year. So this is a big loss for a small town. It is currently in committee, and as I said, it's part of Senate Budget Bill SB 369, if you want to Google that and get some information. The Chamber of Commerce just signed up with an initiative called the Alliance for Prosperous North Carolina. Blowing Rock Chamber signed this. We were part of it, along with Asheville Chamber and a lot of the other chambers in these areas that depend on tourism for their economy. So we're asking you tonight, and George asked me to talk to you about this, what can we do? Because we're going to lose some money here. And there's not many options for getting that money back. The chamber also sent letters back in February or March of this year to our own Senator Suchak, President Pro Tem Phil Berger, and then the sponsors of this bill are Bob Ruccio, who is Charlotte, I believe.
That's right.
That's right.
Harry Brown, who is in Onslow County, and Tom Adoka, who is in Transylvania County. So contacting any one of those folks would be recommended, but especially our own Senator Suchak. I'll give you Dan's phone number if you want to write it down. You can reach him at 919-733-5742, or you can email him or any of these folks, dan.suchak@northcarolinaleg.net, and all of their email addresses are that same format, first name, last name, with a dot between them, and then at ncleg.net. So we ask you to contact us. That's the best we can do is make our voices known. And if you want some more information on this, I have a few printouts here I'll give you after the meeting.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you so much. Folks, we need your help on this.
You guys got information on our website, would you talk about that?
Yes, we'll put this on the website, our website. You can see the website address here. And also, we're going to have a film of tonight's programs being done. That will also be on the website. So anything that you think you don't pick up the first time, you can pick it up the second or third time you listen to it on our website. So we'll have all this information on how to contact Dan Suchak and anyone else appropriate on that situation. And since we mentioned the state senate, we've got a gentleman here I'm pleased to recognize who had a little experience with that. Distinguished former state senator Tony Rand. Would you stand up and be recognized, please? Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you for being here, Tony. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce a gentleman who's going to do a great job with our panel tonight. You know, when I think about development, real estate development, these are folks who have nerves of steel and high intelligence, and really it's a track that's too fast for me to run on, I can tell you. I thought about what Casey Stengel said. Some of you might remember Casey Stengel was a baseball manager back there for the Yankees and the Mets, and he actually tutored Yogi Berra. You know, Yogi wouldn't know what to say then with Casey. And one time Casey said, you have to go broke 3 times to learn how to make a living. And sometimes I think that might be true in real estate development. But another thing Casey said was never make predictions, especially about the future. So I hope we'll hold off on that. But anyway, this gentleman I have the pleasure to introduce is a fellow, you can look around and see the tangible results of his handiwork here at Chetola. He's done a wonderful job, he and his family, with this fine resort, and we're very grateful to him. But also, in addition to that, Ken Tarbutton is a fine professional, well-educated, Old Dominion University, has been educated and is knowledgeable in every field of real estate development, as even a certified financial planner, and he He's a fellow who is really outstanding and has done all kinds of things. Not every board in this area he served on, and served with distinction. And I had the pleasure of serving with him on the Blowing Rock Hospital Board. And he did a wonderful job up there, but he's also on the committee over at Appalachian State University, and they're wise to take advantage of his fine counsel. Also the town of Blowing Rock, and he's currently serving as chairman of the Blowing Rock Tourism Development Authority, and they're doing an outstanding job. And I've been involved with the Shriners up here on some programs, and I'm proud to say that this gentleman's also a Mason and a member of Oasis Shriners. Also, this gentleman has a great family, has two daughters, Morgan and Chelsea. Morgan's involved in the business and very successfully, and is doing a great job. And one son, Lennon, and Kent and Shelley are presently attending Refuge Church here in Blowing Rock. Their folks are wonderful religious folks, and I am very pleased to introduce to you Kent Tarbutton.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. It's really nice to be here. You know, I told somebody in Blowing Rock, it's a pleasure to be a homeowner in Blowing Rock. It's a pleasure to join you as such, and a business owner in Blowing Rock. And I would tell you, I spoke of it the other day, and Jerry Rogers made me think of this. I told somebody, you know, you can't ever really be from where you weren't born, but if you're good, you can be adopted. And that was my goal. So Jerry adopted me. She was the first woman in Blowing Rock to adopt me back on the Blowing Rock Stage Company board. So thank you for being here, Jerry, and being a great mother substitute. Anyway, welcome to Chetola. Happy to have all y'all here on another wonderful, beautiful night in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I appreciate all that are taking time to come out tonight because you care about a marvelous community that we all live in. Before I begin the introductions of our illustrious real estate developers that George has talked about over here, I want to share just a minute of background so that we all start off on the same page as we share in the knowledge from some outsiders, educated views of the opportunities that remain in Blowing Rock. Let me begin by acknowledging that several people couldn't be here that George mentioned, and I was grateful that all council is so involved in this town and the chambers as well. Blowing Rock is the first community I've ever lived in that every 10 years since 1984 stops and takes the pulse of its citizens. That's amazing. And it does something with it. Lots of people send out all those questionnaires that I throw in the garbage because I know they really don't want to know what I think. From every political party this time of year, you'll be getting one if you haven't already. And I write comments on them and wait to see if they call, and they never do. Blowing Rock does a survey, and it sends it out to all citizens. And that was done again this past year. 2014 was the most recent one. What surprised me, having seen two of these, I've lived here about 18 years now, a little longer than that, and it's amazing that they take that and they distill it and they look at what the general citizens want in Blowing Rock. So we're all encouraged to be very involved in this community. And then the town council, along with lots of other people, does research. This last time we hired a firm to come in, the town did, and they ran several public forums and vision meetings, and with the consultants they put together with the council, the town manager, and the staff brought together this plan that I hold right here. It's called the 2014 Comprehensive Plan Update for Blowing Rock. And if you haven't seen this, I'd love for you to go online and look at it. There are shorter editions. There's a top 10 list that you might want to get, because this is 134 pages or so, isn't it, George? Something like that. And it's quite detailed, but then they do something with it. And that's what I've been impressed with living in Blowing Rock. They work very hard to put public-private partnerships together to get things done. And it's made a difference. And I'll give you just a couple quick examples. I think we saw what you mentioned, American Legion Hall tonight, and that's one that's recently been redone through that partnership. I think one of my favorite examples, that a lot of y'all I saw at the Blowing Rock Hospital get together last night, and there's another one where the town of Blowing Rock very graciously annexed that property and then came up with the funding to put sewer and water in there. That would be in Boone. We heard that last night. Had that not happened, the likelihood was that that would be in Boone today. And that makes a huge difference to our community. And having had my 81-year-old mother just join us to live up here permanently, I can't tell you how excited I am that that facility is being built right here in Blowing Rock. Those are great examples. And I talked with Lee Dunstan, who you heard from a few minutes ago yesterday, and was further encouraged to hear how he had sat with Charles Harden, who's the director of the chamber you just heard from, and talked about what the chamber was doing and the focus and direction of their efforts. And then I was impressed to see Lee, as a private citizen, join the Chamber of Commerce here to offer his talents. And Lee's got a lot of talents to help push forward these efforts. I think that's very meaningful. Those public-private partnerships coming together are what makes things happen, like that Greenway Trail that we use in Boone that's going to connect to Blowing Rock. and the coordination of DOT getting involved and just ending up another $100,000 about 3 weeks ago, JB or something like that. Is that about right? $110,000 they put in, added to the project to greet people into Bowling Rock. It's going to be a beautiful entrance. The Gateway project that the university got involved with, the chamber and the town. I mean, we see some fabulous things happening here. I just want you to be aware of them and be involved in them. But you came here tonight to hear the views from some rather accomplished business experts to add to the thoughts and directions already in place. And I've had a couple of people say, hey, with all these plans just devised, why would you do that? And I think the answer is pretty simple. Because the one thing we can always be assured of is that life is fluid and it's always changing. I remember when I was building this room in 2008. Ask me if you think I saw the future. I was putting about $5 million more into this project, and I didn't see that wave coming. And I'm grateful to God that I was very blessed and lived through that experience and got to keep developing here. But life is always changing, so it's always good to look ahead, and it's good to have great thoughts to add to the path you're already on. And I think that's what we're doing. So let me end my comments with wise words from my father, who shared with me as he brought me up in his business many years ago. He said, if you're not growing, you're dying. Understand that about your business. Get in hospitality or real estate development or whatever. If you're not growing, you're dying. So tonight I look forward to hearing new thoughts and dreams from our panelists, followed by your questions. So let's talk about real quickly the order of the evening. Tonight we'll ask I'll introduce each of our panelists and tell you a little bit about their background. And then we'll talk from their observations and comments they'll give individually. We'll have followed up by a question period. Now you saw pens and pads on all the chairs. Please use them. Pass them to the end of the row. George, I guess we got a system to collect them. All right, and we'll pick them up. If you just bring them to the end and hold them out, we'll get your questions and we'll ask them to address those questions. We're setting this meeting for 1 hour. That'll be challenging with 3 great panelists and a lot of good people with good questions and have little doubt. So please don't give me statements to make. I won't be making statements tonight. I think that's a follow-up meeting that y'all will likely have from what you get from this. But throw some questions while we have them, and let's get some good answers. We'll end with a short comment from the director of our chamber, Charles, and one from John Aldridge, addressing how we can combine efforts to accomplish great things in this mountain village that you and I have chosen to make our home. So let me begin. Let's go with Jim Coleman. Jim's hometown is Greenville, South Carolina. Well, he was born in Greenville. I guess home is now Hilton Head Island since 1974. His wife Mary and 4 children and 11 grandchildren. I just had my first grandchild about 8 months ago. I'll show you pictures after the meeting. But Jim, I'll tell you, 11 grandchildren. I'll be working on that. UNC, bachelor's degree in business administration, captain in the U.S. Air Force, Sea Pines Company Vice President, Marketing Sales, Hilton Head Plantation Company Senior VP, co-founder of Melrose Company, which many of you know, the Cypress Company President since 1988. He's very distinguished in his community as the President of the Hilton Head Island Board of Realtors, the Chairman of the Board of Deacons of the First Presbyterian Church, the Chairman of the Board of Trustees in Hilton Head Preparatory School, Trustee of the Heritage Classic Foundation, and on it goes. So we'll be hearing from Jim first tonight. Then we'll meet Joe Jackson. Some of y'all know Joe from Statesville, with wife Beth and, let's see, 1 boy and 1 girl in the family. You got a ways to catch up with the rest of us. But those grandchildren are a wonderful addition. And he was founding and managing partner of Metrolina Capital Advisors. Joe Jackson brings 30 years of experience to companies and clients working in real estate sector as a commercial real estate appraiser since 1990. And he was licensed as a real estate broker in 84. Metrolina actively invests in commercial real estate, senior secured debt, and development joint ventures. Joe's a native of Cabarrus County and holds the CCIM, which is the Certified Commercial Investment Member designation, and is recognized as an expert commercial and investment real estate industry. He actively volunteers in his community, both personally and professionally, serving on numerous boards. Joe holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in economics and Master's of Business Administration from UNC in Charlotte. So last we'll hear from Ron Withrow. Ron married to Paula, 3 daughters, 5 granddaughters, and 2 grandsons. Native of Charlotte, and how do you say that, Charlatan? Charlatan, I get that word. Bachelor's degree in electrical engineering, North Carolina State University in '67. MBA from the School of Business of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. First job, I like that. First job when he graduated, he was immediately employed by a regional real estate firm headquartered in Charlotte as the Director of Marketing, Research, Financial Analysis, and Land Acquisition. That had to be pretty interesting. At 72, he formed Withrow Capital, a commercial real estate development company where he remains active in that business today. Focuses on development and ownership of multifamily housing, shopping centers, and office buildings. In 82, began a program aimed at redirecting capital into warehousing and undeveloped land. Since then, he has collected over 60 tracts of land ranging from a quarter acre to 60 acres, or 400 acres, excuse me, Ron, 400 acres, and most recently he has become involved in joint ventures developing a lot of those multifamily and commercial projects on those land holdings. He has experience in all phases of real estate. So Ron has vast experience in assemblage of land, acquisition, rezoning, development, financial analysis, and property management, like-kind exchanges, lots of things that have to do with the acquisition and development of real estate. So you've got a fine panel up here that have been looking at real estate in Blowing Rock and giving us their thoughts. I appreciate George telling me beforehand he was giving tours of our town as well. So we've also asked them to look over the comprehensive plans so they have some idea of what the citizens and town council and others have put together as the vision in Blowing Rock presently. So with that, let's begin. Your mics will go live, guys. You can come up here or we can live mic you there, whichever you like. All right. Very good. Let's welcome him.
And thank Kent. Let me just say that if everything in Blowing Rock was conceived and developed and operated as well as Chetola, we probably wouldn't have to have a meeting. It's a wonderful place.
Thank you.
I've read through this, and I don't know how many of you have. It's 133 pages, but it's very well done. It's a nice vision, but it's also very general. And so I'm going to throw out a lot of very specific things today, just as ideas and not necessarily recommendations, just some things to think about. The perspective I come from, Mary and I moved to Hilton Head 41 years ago. And we started coming to Blowing Rock 30 years ago. Interestingly, Hilton Head 40 years ago and Blowing Rock 40 years ago were essentially the same size, just about the same population, just about the same facilities. In fact, at Hilton Head there was still a drawbridge, one grocery store, not a single traffic signal between I-95 and the end of the island. Now, the island itself has a population of 40,000. At any given time, there are another 40,000 there on vacation or convention. The area between Hilton Head and 95 is another 40,000 in population. There are probably 100 traffic signals. In Blowing Rock, the only real changes I've seen since I've been coming here in 30 years is the big dollar's not there anymore. It's the Canyons restaurant now. The farmhouse is where Jack and Josephine Bell live. Sonny's is gone, at least that lasted until a few years ago. The hot dog stand, the auctions on Main Street at night. So those reminders of the 1950s are a few things that have changed in Blowing Rock. And so I asked myself, why? What's the difference? What was the difference? Oh, there are a couple of things. One is short-term rentals. There are no short-term rentals in Blowing Rock by policy. It's not a retiree. You can't hear me?
Yeah, closer to the
Are you
The retirees, that's the thing that really pushed Hilton Head development was retirees. And they don't want to stand the winners for the most part, don't want to stand the winners in Blowing Rock, so that's another difference. And then Boone, being so close, has been able to provide all the facilities that did not have to be built right in Blowing Rock, and that's a great blessing. So those are the three of the things that really made a difference. But there is one big change coming to Blowing Rock right now, and that's the new 4-lane road. That's probably the biggest change in the last 30 years. So, and I think it's a wonderful thing. I think we'll all grow to love it. I know you don't necessarily feel that way right now, and a lot of people were against it, but after it's developed, I think it's a great opportunity for us. And it's a chance to reset. I just like to go through my vision of how the arrival in Blowing Rock should be, and I think this is a great chance to develop a nice arrival experience. As you come up around that last curve, coming up the hill, we need to engineer things to make people slow down. the change in the speed limit would be one. But overall, but even more important than that would be a beauty, a sense of arrival in the landscaping and the signage that makes people want to slow down. I'd also park a patrol car over there for the first few months. And if we become known as a speed trap, the word spreads that Blowing Rock is a speed trap, and that's okay too. And I would have the signage. It's a great opportunity for signage to paint a picture of a historical place. Arriving in a historical place, the signage would be consistent, would look the same going along. There would be a sign for the Blowing Rock Park, maybe, just something that made it not seem like it was the village. Established 1933. Green Park Inn, established 1895 or whatever. Oval James, since 1940. Blowing Rock Country Club, established 1950. And these would be consistent signs, historic in nature, that would really set a tone. And when you get to the turnoffs to go into the village, and that would be what would distinguish it as the village, turn left into the village. And then Boone, 8 miles ahead. Now there's a nice median. You can already see the median coming along the road. And that can be planted very nicely all the way down to Sunset, intersection of Sunset. That's another opportunity to beautify and paint an image. Another chance for people to go into the village, sign that again. Clean up all 4 corners. I'm not sure what to do with the old Scotsman building. Hopefully that can be torn down. The highway department may even own it. I don't know. But whoever owns it, I think it may be too small to develop. That maybe have some vendors there, some farmers market type vendors there, that the flower lady's there every Monday and the vegetable person's there every Tuesday. And they had a nice small town feel to that area. Coming in from the other side, coming down from the Blue Ridge Parkway, the horse show grounds are not marked at all now as you come down 221. Sometimes there's a little bitty sign when they're having an event, but for the most part, that's not marked. So I'd have a nice permanent sign announcing showing the importance of the horse show site. And then you can hang, as events happen, jumpers, hunters, whatever, with the dates, you can hang that below that perhaps. Bass Lake would be marked with a historical marker. By the way, I think a concession here should be carriage rides on the trails. If you go to Charleston or you go to Savannah or whatever, one of the things that everybody does is take a carriage ride with a historical interpretation. I think that would be a wonderful thing here. The town could probably coordinate that with the Park Service and then let that out to the concessionaires. So those are just some ideas of how I would handle the biggest change that's coming on there with the 4-lane road. And then I arrived at downtown. Excuse me. Who was it, Rubio, that did that? He's on at 9. But I'm not running for anything, so don't penalize me for that. I don't have a lot to say about downtown. The other presenters will, but a couple of things. I noticed that one of the big problems is turnover. And when you have that much turnover, there's got to be tension between the business operators and building owners, landlords. So perhaps there could be an annual seminar where they could have the building owners, the landlords, and the tenants come together and talk about the economics for each side so that they can appreciate each other a little bit more. I think the building owners need to realize that their buildings are 6-month buildings and the businesses are mostly 6-month businesses. So there just needs to be more appreciation there, I think. I don't know what to do with the big white house. $1,400,000 for the big white house. Maybe somebody else has got a solution for that. And I don't want to pick on any, say anything about one specific business, but I do have one idea. There's a business that has a marvelous location, a great name, good food. But I'd love to see somebody get a hold of it. There's a reality show that Robert Urban does. It's called something like Restaurant Impossible or something. You've probably seen it. Goes in for 1 week. It's a reality show. Goes in for 1 week, and at the end of the week, he's totally turned the restaurant around. I'd love to see the speckled trout become the home of the home of the famous crispy trout sandwich. You know, you go to Mount Airy and you got to have a pork chop sandwich, or you go to Nantucket and you got to have a lobster roll. So I think Blowing Rock could be the home of the famous crispy trout sandwich, and all the restaurants could have it. But I think there are some businesses that could use some help, and that's one. I mean, I don't know what to do. You walk in that front door and you don't know what's going on sometimes. It's kind of like, sorry if I offended anyone. So that's the beauty of being an outsider. I don't know anything about the politics or who owns these businesses or the town council or anything. So, now, on to what I'm supposed to know something about, and that's development. Have some, and the challenge, this is an interesting subject. How do you develop and grow Blowing Rock without changing it? So that's an interesting concept. First of all, I point out that there is one excellent development now that provides lots of things, jobs and customers for downtown without any negatives at all, and that's Blue Ridge Mountain Club. I would call that a satellite development, if you will. They have claimed Blowing Rock as their hub. They could have chosen Boone, but that brings lots of people in and lots of revenue and lots of good things. The only thing it doesn't really do is help the tax base Don Old. So that's the only negative associated with that. So I'd like to describe what I would do, or not what I would do, because you might not like it, but what could be done with a couple of parcels. The Hayes property on Pinnacle is absolutely marvelous. And it was given by Mrs. Hayes to the hospital. She told me one time she didn't want to give it to her children, grandchildren. I'm sorry, after the ASU, given to ASU. She told me she was going to, I lived there. She told me she was going to do that. She didn't want to leave it to her children or grandchildren. So ASU got this beautiful property. They listed it at too high a price for a long, long time, and now it's just sitting there after 5-6 years. That property could be developed into, it's 11 acres and about 7 acres of it is usable. Maybe 5 per acre. You could do some wonderful cottages there, which would be the traditional Blowing Rock product, which is a seasonal home. 1,500 square feet, garage, nice fireplace, deck. There's room there for a little community gathering space on the gorge where the old playhouse used to be and the little viewing platform. So what the approach there would be to go to do the business plan, go to ASU, and say, here's what your land is worth, because this is how it could be developed. That's what, my theory on what a piece of land is worth is always what the profit that can be developed on it, and then the expenses, and then what's left for the land. Hopefully that kind of pitch could be made. That's a nice product. It would be maybe 35 cottages, nice tax base, and provide customers downtown. Same thing could happen on the 7-acre site. I'm not as familiar with that one, 7-acre site between here and downtown. The last one I'll mention is the hospital site, which is absolutely marvelous. I mean, it's got the views, it's right next to downtown. It's a fabulous piece of property. I'm not sure how big that is either. But there is a product that could go there that it could produce customers for downtown on a regular rotating basis, but both for retail and for food and beverage. Produce real estate cut buyers. Don would have a wonderful tax base, so it got everything going for it. It could be a hotel, but that's risky and difficult to pull off. The other thing that it could be is timeshares. I can hear the groans now. But there are wonderful communities all over the world with really nice timeshare projects. And I'm not saying that I want to do it or anybody would, but that's the kind of, we ought to be thinking about things like that because it could be done very nicely. The traffic is probably not any worse than it is with the hospital now. It provides employment. Real estate agents love it because people come and buy a timeshare and 3 or 4 years later they buy a home. So anyway, just a thought. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. We appreciate that. And I did hear the timeshare grow. Now, you know we have timeshare at Chetola, right? Now, you don't know that. Okay, all right. And I have converted some of them. It's amazing. I own timeshare units that we give to our staff as rewards used around the world for travel. And I've got all those because they brought homes here. Later they would come in. About half of them I have probably 11 of them, I don't even know. And they came in and they said, can I trade this in for a condo? And I said, yeah, with a couple $100,000 more, we can work it out. So, you know, we have done that, just that. We have seen some conversions. Anyway, that's an interesting comment. Joe Jackson, if you join us, please welcome Joe.
This is a wonderful crowd. I'm so glad that you're here supporting Blowing Rock. I've loved Blowing Rock since I was a little boy. I used to come here with my grandparents. Then when I was a teenager, we came here to ski with my 4 brothers, then on UMYF youth trips. Then in my 20s, my wife Beth, who's sitting on the 3rd row here, and I came up here while we were dating. We had some wonderful memories of Blowing Rock, some things that are gone that we miss. The Sunset Inn, Sunny's, where we got to make the lettuce and tomato sandwiches, the farmhouse restaurant with the dancers and singers that we love so dearly. One thing I particularly enjoyed was the auction house. Beth didn't like it as much as me. We had that colorful guy, was his name Sherman maybe? Sure. And 1 minute he was telling a joke, the next minute he was insulting the audience, and sometimes he was doing both at the same time. But I love Blowing Rock. We've made quite a substantial investment here, and we want to see the town thrive and be here for our children and grandchildren to enjoy. Some things that concern me about Blowing Rock is the lack of the difficulty that we provide to potential developers here. It seems like we have a beehive of concerns about developers or development activity. And when I look at the economics of the town, our current economy is not sustainable. I'll tell you why I think that. What we've got is a situation with an aging demographic. And these folks are giving their homes to their children, or the children are inheriting the homes, or they're a younger generation, my contemporaries, are buying these homes. Well, these folks can't come and spend 4.5 months up here. They're here 3-4 weeks a year, maybe. I'm unusual. We're here all the time because we call this home, and we're here 23 weekends out of the year last year. We hope to be up here even more. As our youngest is a rising senior, we'll be empty nesters, and you'll see more of us. But so we've got these folks that were here 4.5 months. They're converting to people that are here 3 to 4 weeks, and the economic implications of that is significant. I've been canvassing the stakeholders in the area about how their businesses are doing, hotels, inns, retailers, and they're telling me that their numbers are flat to declining. So we have got to turn that around. We can't just say we want no growth or the town will die. We've got to figure out how we can have smart growth, how we can be welcoming to developers. It's very expensive to develop a piece of property. You have to invest your time, you have to invest your resources, you take considerable financial risk. And the people that I'm talking to locally and outside the market that are developers are telling me Blowing Rock is not welcome to developers. So we have this last development project, Mountain Leaf, that didn't take off. And we all know what happened there. But my concern is the next 5 developers that we won't even know about because they'll discount Blowing Rock and they'll go to the path of least resistance. What I'd like to talk about for a minute is how we as developers evaluate a piece of property to determine the highest and best use for the property. We start out with a funnel, if you will. And this funnel at the top has all possible uses for a piece of property. We ask a series of questions as we work through this exercise to determine what is the optimal solution for the piece of property. The first series of questions that we ask pertain to what is physically possible on a site. With those questions, we're going to be looking at accessibility, topography, things like that. The second series of questions that we will ask is what is legally permissible? What does zoning allow us to do? Are there deed restrictions that prohibit us from doing what we have in mind? Then we get to the third series of questions, which is really the most important because those questions deal with the economic feasibility of the project. If a project doesn't provide a return of capital and on the capital, it's not going to be worth pursuing. So after we have these questions answered, we come down to the fourth thing, which is of the potential ideas for a piece of property, that is physically possible, legally permissible, financially feasible, which one of those is maximally productive to the property. Now, I was asked to make a few comments about the Mountain Leaf site and also the old hospital site. And in looking at the Mountain Leaf site, it has some challenges physically. Also looked at the adjacent 14 acres that has a home, and it appears to have considerable excess land. If a developer could buy the 7-acre site at a reasonable price from the bank that now owns it, not the $4 billion it sold for back before the Great Recession, not the price the last developer had it under contract for, but a reasonable price that will work, and could assemble that with a portion of the excess land on the adjacent property, now you've got enough scale that you may have the potential to make something work. What I would envision there is a nice patio home community. I think that is underserved in this market. I think it would be well received. When we look over at the hospital site and the Stiles site, that's a little more challenging. I understand the hospital is looking for $2 million for the building. Developers have told me that the remediation of existing improvements with the environmental concerns will be over $1 million. You've got obvious subterranean rock as well as the visible rock outcroppings. Rock remediation up here can be enormously expensive to a developer. Just running some back of the napkin numbers, I'm figuring your site costs all in there is going to be somewhere in the $15 million range, which is going to necessitate a project in the $75 to $100 million range. So when you're looking at doing something of that magnitude, the risk is astronomical, plus the impact on adjacent neighbors. I think what would be a good idea is for a group like ours to engage a land planner to do some conceptual designs from a very high level, take those designs and meet with adjacent neighbors and get everybody's buy-in on the front so that we're proactively working with the developers, not reacting. I was talking to a gentleman the other day who owns the Food Lion out here. And when he remodeled that for the tenant, he had all sorts of issues getting that done. A project that should have taken less than a year took over 2 years because of all the red tape that had to be dealt with in the town. Not to mention that the lobster tank that they tried to put in, they finally just threw their hands up and didn't do it. Excuse me just a second here. So back to my initial thought, how can we sustain the longevity of Blowing Rock? I think we need to figure out what we want to see on these sites. We need to be welcoming to the developers that we identify, 5 or 6, that we invite into town, and we relax the bureaucracy and the development standards such that something can get done here in a timely way and profitable way. Just remember that you can't steal second base if you don't take your foot off first.
Good thoughts, great thoughts. Thank you for sharing with us. Ron, you come up from, they got it out, Charlottine, is that it? Or Charlottine, Ron? That's close enough. No. Please welcome Ron Withrow.
Like the others, pleased to be here this evening. My thoughts are going to be a little bit more, having trouble hearing.
Yes.
Is it on? Oh, yeah.
Oh, kick it off.
We'll have to hold. Is that it? Is that better?
Yeah.
I'm going to focus on some specific issues, some specific items, things that I think we could do in the community that need to be addressed. And let me start by saying that I'm going to be looking at hot spots, observations, thoughts, and solutions on many of these different things. The first thing that I've heard a great deal of conversation on are the overhead power lines. What? The overhead power lines on Main Street.
A little closer with the mic.
The overhead power lines along Main Street. Anyone else concerned about those? I mean, is that a big issue? That's what I heard. I also heard that it would cost the city somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 to $3 million to put all of those lines underground. What it would cost to the tenants that are in the various buildings, the retailers, would be even more than that perhaps. Because when you start burying cables in the street, you're digging up asphalt, you're digging up concrete, you're putting the cables in, you're filling with dirt, you're then bringing in the asphalt again, and you're putting in the concrete, and most of you understand all of that. It's a lengthy process, and all you're doing is hiding some cables. When I left my home in Charlotte this morning, I started looking for phone and telephone lines. And power cables, power lines. We have them in my neighborhood. They just happen to run along the back property lines. But it's 20 miles from my home to Billy Graham Parkway. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Billy Graham Parkway, but it's a 4-lane divided median highway. Runs by the airport, Charlotte International. I looked at the power lines, and for the first time, even as a native Charlottean, I saw them. I never drive down the street and just look at power lines. I never see them anymore. If you want to see them, you have to look up, generally speaking. And so today when I got to Blowing Rock, I started looking for the power lines, and I will have to admit, there are a large number of power lines on Main Street. They're not all power lines. Some of them are telephone lines that swing across Main Street to the other side. I think, though, that some of the things that maybe keep us from focusing on those are the flower baskets that are on the various light poles, the front of the stores, the windows in the stores. All of those things, I think, take our view away from the power lines. They're not attractive, you're right, but do we really see them? And we'd rather take our $2 or $3 million and do some things that really do make a difference. Some other things, for example, maybe parking. Think about parking in Blowing Rock. There aren't that many parking spaces. We do have a deck that was built a few years ago. During the height of those days when we have the most visitors here, the deck is full. All of the on-street parking spaces are taken. We don't have, to my knowledge, any remote off-site parking with some type of shuttle bus that would bring shoppers into the town. For those of you who are retailers, perhaps in the congregation this evening, you know better than anyone that if cars don't come, you don't have people. If you don't have people, you don't have money. And so the retailers all suffer because of parking. Pardon? So parking is a big issue as far as I'm concerned. I've asked the question before whether or not the new deck beside the lake was built to receive an additional level or maybe even 2 additional decks. The answer that I received from one of the council people was that no, it was not designed to be made higher. Makes no sense at all to me. The incremental cost to have beefed up the structure that's there so that additional decks could be put in would have been minuscule compared to what a new deck would cost in another location. And again, I say, if the cars can't find a place to park, the people can't get out, they can't spend money. So I think parking is a big issue that needs to be addressed in Blowing Rock. And again, let's take some of the money to bury those cables and let's put in some additional parking spaces. The next item I want to talk about is the mixture of architectural materials on Main Street. I've seen everything from, well, let me back up. George and I did a tour of Main Street this morning. I saw red brick, white brick, stucco, stone, rock, a little bit of everything. But if you really looked at those buildings, the biggest eyesore is probably the sides of the larger buildings that you see. They're plain, they don't have any windows in them, they're just red brick and some white brick. It would be so easy if we could figure out how to get the owners of those buildings, even if the city helps subsidize them, to come in and put what is referred to as stick-on stone. Now that probably rubs you the wrong way, those of you who are natives of Charlotte, of Blowing Rock. Stone is stone, and stick-on stone is just a bad word. But I can tell you as a developer in the past 10 years, stick-on stone has really come a long ways. It's much cheaper than actually laying the real stone. But stone is, in fact, one of the best materials that can be used here. It's called Blowing Rock. We're not known as blowing stucco, blowing brick, blowing whatever. It's Blowing Rock. But there are options to the rock. There's this thing didn't want to hear me anymore. Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. This people.
There you go. I'll switch. You're back on.
Okay, I'm back on. I learned today, and George informed me of this, that there is a siding referred to as Blowing Rock siding. I've seen it, and I know all of you probably know exactly what we're talking about. You know, in Charlotte, you have siding, all the boards are just long and the same shape. But Blowing Rock siding looks like it was a slab of wood taken off the side of a large log, and it waves, and it's natural. And I find it to be very attractive. That's a very inexpensive type of material that you could put on the front of some of these stores that looks like a mountain. It's a mountain architectural style. And there are other things that you can do also. In addition to the stick-on stone, we could come in with other types of wood that are available that would still lead us to see the mountain design. So give some thought to that. Is that something we would want to maybe joint venture with the city on? Again, see if we can get the owners of those buildings to come out of pocket for a portion of the money. So that's just something to think about. Talk about parking, cover that. Sunset Drive. That's another one of my hot spots. George and I rode down Sunset Drive, I think 3 times today, and not once did it get any prettier. The closer you are to what I call the square, it's very attractive down through there. Once you get beyond the ragged garden, you start losing the attractiveness. That to me is what I would refer to as the main entrance into the center of the city. That Sunset Drive takes you right to what I call the square. There in the park, in front of the gazebo. I think that is an area, or a street rather, that really needs to have some attention focused on it. If I had my druthers, I would try to buy the service station that's on the corner. Of course, probably 90% of us go there to have our cars inspected. But there are probably other places that we could go. I know I bought gas now, I've had my Jeep inspected there. But in my opinion, it's an eyesore. And I hope the owner's not here tonight, but if I still think it's an eyesore. Especially at the main entrance into the city. If the town could afford to buy that piece of property, let's assume that we did buy it. The next thing we have to do is get rid of the contamination that's there. I'm sure it's there. Contamination is at most all gasoline stations, especially old ones like that with old tanks that are probably leaking. But that might be an ideal location for maybe a visitor center for Blowing Rock. For people that are traveling on 321 and they see it, it's right there. They go in and get a pamphlet, they learn more about the town, they learn about Twitchy, they learn about the university, they learn about Boone, they learn about the trail. There's just a lot of things that people don't know about our area here that they may find to be very interesting and very worthwhile, and then they go home and they tell their friends about it. But then we get more cars coming as the population increases. There are a lot of areas in Charlotte that consider Blowing Rock almost to be a suburb. It's only a 2-hour drive. It's 100 miles. I time myself every time I come up here, I can make it in 2 hours to 2 hours and 3 minutes. That's how often I come here. So we need to give some thought to that concept. What can we do to Sunset to really make it an entry area? At my home here in Blowing Rock, we have what I refer to as a sea of yellow wildflowers. They come back every year, they're perennials. Just to go down into that area, down into the flat part of the street, and just put huge areas of just nothing but wildflowers that come back as perennials every year, known. I think we improve the appearance. So that's something else to think about as a gateway. I would continue to encourage the entertainment that we have on the street there. I know there are a lot of people that walk up and down Main Street that when they get to the square, they look down the hill, and unless they hear something going on down there, they're likely just to cross the street and keep walking on Main Street. But what we want them to do is we want to try to build some magnets of some sorts down there, entertainment or whatever, that would draw them to that area. And I think that's important. I would also submit that it might make sense for us to develop an architectural review committees for any new construction that takes place in the commercial district of Blowing Rock. It's real easy to build something and build it to your own design, but it's another matter if you're going to build it so it really blends in with what's already there. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for mountain designs on all the new buildings. We don't want to tell them how to do everything. We just want to be certain that it blends and complements what we already have, instead of looking like something that just doesn't fit at all. Can you imagine some of our mountain architecture, somebody comes in and they put all glass structure? What a sore thumb that would be. In the center city of Charlotte, it works. In Blowing Rock, it doesn't. So I'm encouraging the town to give some thought to having an architectural review committee, So that anybody that takes out a commercial building permit, it has to go before the committee. That committee before it can be actually built. Lastly, I would give some thought to relocating the police station. I know that the fire department has recently been located over on what I call the super slab. And so I'm thinking, why not put the police station over there also? Because that frees up 2 buildings in the center of the town that maybe can be used for another purpose. Maybe it would make sense to move town hall over there on the super slab also. And bring more things in that are desirable for the center of the community. So I would submit that we ought to give some thought to that. On the old, I call it the old hospital site. George and I rode up there today, and my comment to George was, it's going to cost a fortune just to tear that thing down. But that's a steel structure, a lot of concrete. He pointed out to me the tract of land that might be available for development right now. And he asked me, he said, Ron, what are your quick thoughts on that? And I said, well, I always have a thought on just about everything. My quick thought would be a hotel. That would actually, the top of the hotel would be even with the parking lot. And that hotel would go down so that you really didn't see it until you actually got up to it. But that view from up there, you can look across and you got a fantastic view of Grandfather Mountain. So I would say a hotel there. I can assure you there are people within 200 miles of Charlotte that would come to a really nice hotel. They have a nice restaurant in it that maybe had an exclusive bar that was just out of this world. People can afford those things, and people will come to it if you have it and you advertise it properly. I would also give some thought to maybe putting in townhomes or not rental townhomes, but condominiums in there that people could buy. It could be their home. So there are a lot of things that you can do there, but do upper scale. I hope that this has opened up some eyes and will maybe give thought. I hope I'm challenging you because that's what I want to do. Rolling Rock will continue to grow. Rolling Rock has a great history. Rolling Rock just needs a little polishing right now and a little thought given to it. Thank you.
It's time for questions and answers. If you'll pass them, we all pass them to one side. If you have questions, would you pass them to my right side, which I guess is your left side, to the end of the aisle? Oh boy, he's already done it. You're real fast. All right. And I guess I'll read the question, and instead of me appointing someone to answer, if you want to jump on that question, please let me know. And let me turn on the other mic on the table here. You know, just pass this back and forth and we'll be live. There's an old fire station building that's in disrepair on Park Avenue. Any thoughts? Am I on? Okay. Maybe by turning you on, I cut myself off. Yeah, it didn't like us both at once. All right, I'll walk. All right, what would be the best use of the old fire station building on Park Avenue? Well, if you notice that we have an old fire station right there in the old district of town. And there's a fire station there, and this question is, what's the best use for that building?
I'll just say the comprehensive plan anticipates a large center there. That's what they came up with.
Art center? Anybody else?
I wonder if that would museum. My question was with another artsy place, would that be detrimental to the new museum that's being built? I know do not concern about that.
Good.
With Performing Arts Center.
Performing arts, yeah.
Playhouse.
All right. Our next question, what do you think about converting downtown Blowing Rock into a pedestrian-friendly area with no street parking on Main Street and ample drop-off places for downtown stores and restaurants?
I love the idea.
You like it?
I like the idea tremendously, actually. And thought about that one. Then they gave some stand.
It was, you're wrong, you just gotta be close to this one.
And I actually gave some thought to that this morning when George and I were doing our tour. Again, in order to do that, you're going to have to build another deck, no question about it. But it's a great idea. It makes it walkable. You cross the street anywhere you want to cross. I love the idea.
You have comments on that one? All right. I know that there is a lot of empty retail space on Main Street and Sunset. What is the best way to fill those spaces with positive shops? You know, strange. I think there's a ghost in this microphone. And how can we fill those shops? That's the question.
I think it'd be great if we could have some guy-centric businesses there, a mass general store, an Orbis, a sporting goods store, some venues like
Okay. She's going to give you another mic. I saw my marketing director run out, so I know she's going for another mic. Let me try that one. We shut that off. Yeah. That was. Okay, the question was, what type of development, well, that's the wrong question. It was about filling the shops. What would we do to attract good retail development in those empty shops?
I think it'd be great if we could get some guy-centric businesses downtown. A mass general store would be great, an Orbis shop, sporting goods store, some things along those lines.
I guess I'd like to ask the question of the audience. What things do you think would go over in the town of Blowing Rock and be very successful? So if you could share that information with us, then that gives us ideas on who could be contacted. What retailers that have no presence here that we could contact and invite them to come up and look at Blowing Rock and see if this is a market that they would like to be involved in.
Pretty good. This is kind of a repeat, but I'm going to do it. It says, more parking close to downtown shopping would be helpful. I know that you jumped all over that one. Any others want to comment on that? Everybody says we've already answered that one. All right. Yes was the answer. How do you view the conditional use permit process here? Anybody? How do you view the conditional use permit process here? Kind of a factor, a little bit of yours, which was really addressing how hard is it to develop here. I was at the Blowing Rock Hospital luncheon last night, and Rob was there representing the hospital, and Rob said, you know, we just listed the property tonight. We just listed that property that we're all talking about up on the hill, 2.4 or whatever it was that they listed it for. He said, and I am getting some reaction because I know that development has been hard here. And he probably said it to me because he knows that I was involved in that group in 2006 that took 2 years to try and get the 7 acres developed next door. And he said, do you think I'll have reactions to that? And I think you answered that. You got to make that process simple and easy. So I guess your answer is the same on this. That's very good. All right, we go to the next one. This was a question again about the hospital property, and I think it's been answered about what you guys think might be developed there. I've heard residential, I've heard a mixed use, and I've heard hotel. Anything to add to that? We're there? All right. Thank you. Then the same for the site next to me, the 7.35 acres. We've heard hotel and we've heard residential. I didn't hear mixed use this time, which was the 2 last projects that tried to make that happen. Any other comments on that?
It's going to be hard for mixed use to work there.
Ron, it's commented it's going to be very hard for mixed use to work there. Having tried to do it, Ron, I probably would agree with you. All right.
This comment
Please.
on the conditional use. On the conditional use permit, somebody might not know what that really means, but what it is, a conditional conditional permit is one where you're trying to build something in an area that perhaps does not allow that use. So what you do, you have to go to some length to convince council that that is a use that would be suitable for a conditional permit. Because it's not allowed according to ordinance at this point, but maybe a conditional permit would allow it to be built.
So there's a couple questions here. Does the state own the old Scotchman site? And the current answer is yes, it does. They are debating whether they will need it after the project's done. They won't release that knowledge until they're done, and they're using it for all kinds of things presently. Next one was, what's the big White House, Cone Manor? Well, yes, that's one of them, but I don't think that's the one I'm referring to. That's the one owned by, yeah, it was where Blowing Rock Realty was. Yeah, and Ken Barnaby owns that and is personally trying to sell that building. That's right there on Main Street. What's up with the United States Post Office in Blowing Rock? Okay, George, you can take that, or should I give that to, who says, John Aldridge here still? John, could you comment on that? Could I get you, because you and I talked about it at coffee this morning.
The post office is still in negotiation with Wells Fargo. There was a sale and leaseback. The investor really has nothing to do with the post office. The post office is a sublease under the Wells Fargo lease. I've talked to Wells Fargo as recently as today. Scott Coleman is up to date, our town manager, on this, and it's a private transaction. Wells Fargo sent a new lease to the post office last May. Didn't hear anything, and apparently the post office has discovered that their lease expires at the end of the month, but it looks like that they're negotiating, and I'm optimistic based on what I know that they'll reach a deal. So that's most recent.
Thank you, John.
I think Wells Fargo, that battery got lost.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, if it went to Washington, it probably is lost somewhere. But I guess I'm making political statements now. I'll stop. We got 5 minutes left, so let me wrap it. 7 weeks of post office questions. This can be simple. We'll skip through that. There's a comment about concerns over all the motorcycles. Could they be parked on the edge of town or be shuttled in? Do you have a comment? Anybody want to make a comment about whether that's positive or negative in a town to have the? I mean, it's not like Myrtle Beach or not Myrtle Beach. What's the one that Daytona Beach that does bike shows? I don't think we'll see that here, but we'll see high-end motorcycles in small groups coming through our town. Any positive or negative comments on that you guys want to make? Yeah, I think that's the comment. Should we allow it? Should they be shuttled in? And it's a problem in development. Any comment? Any thoughts on motorcycles in town?
Yeah, I don't think you can outlaw it, but you can enforce the noise ordinance.
Very good. Yeah, you can do that, yeah.
Park in a designated area.
I think he's right. No, I don't think you can, but you could control by noise ordinance. And I'm not a lawyer, but we'll leave that to the legal folks. But I'm sure, and I know we do have a noise ordinance. So we have the note, you're coming in 221, you see that note about the jack brakes, that you can't use those in our town. Same thing there. It's about enforcement. Skip the post office question, we've done that. Could anything be done to the green parking to enable it to become a 4 or 5-star hotel? I think we need to go to the green parking here to answer that one. Yeah, a lot of money. Yes, we need another investor. Uh-oh. Marcia got problems with her mic. Okay. All right. Oh, thank you. Dying microphones. All right. Are we on? Here we are. All right. How about a group of focused visiting successful mountain communities, seeing what makes them outstanding and bringing home the ideas? I have to comment on that one. The Chamber of Commerce actually did a tour and invited all the town council and many of the folks on the economic development, and a lot of us were invited to go on that tour. I had 2 staff members from Chetola go on that tour, and then last year I joined you guys for one over West Jefferson and some other towns to look at improvements and things like that that are made. So that's actually been done. Okay, I'm having trouble reading this one, sorry. I'm sort of useful. Can you read that? I'm sorry, George. That's pulling you in. I do have one over here that was sent in, and I'll do while we're waiting. Have you got that? This one says, and this is really to this group of the Blowing Rock Civic League here. It says, in recent years, there's been an impressive. Hello? Okay. In recent years, there have been some impressive success stories of private-public partnerships in Blowing Rock. For example, the new gazebo, and it talks about things we've done, the American Legion Hall, the Gateway Project. The question is the Blowing Rock Civic Association going to take a leadership role and position and financially support any specific private-public partnerships to improve our community, or is the association more of a think tank and a watchdog organization? George, I guess I'll throw that one to you.
Yes, right, yeah. Ken, what we have done with the Blowing Rock Civic Association is really aimed toward being an educational organization at this point. So that's basically our mission as we see it in helping the community, is to look at the various issues that are important to the community and bring as much useful information out as early as possible in the decision-making process for the town, so that any issue can have a thorough vetting by all the stakeholders involved in it. And that's been one of the concerns we've had, that some of these issues seem to spring sort of on the spur of the moment, and that may well be because some of us have not followed some of the information that's out there. But we are very troubled about that, and so this is what this organization wants to do, is sort of find out what's going on and make our members aware of it.
Very good. That answers it. Let's see. Let me end real quickly because our time is out, and we're right on it. I was honored to be asked to be your MC tonight. I guess I am because the more involved all of us are in building this community, the better all of our chances are of keeping this incredible mountain community one of the best places on the planet, I think, to live, to work, to raise families, to bring your grandkids up to see a more gentle, peaceful part of a little town in America that still exists. So thanks for coming out tonight. I'd like to mention two things before we leave. One is go online. This is, simple as townofblowingrock.com. All one word, townofblowingrock.com. And this is on there. It's on the left-hand side of the page, halfway down under helpful, what is it? I see Scott back there. Scott, what is it? Helpful, help me out. Helpful places or something like that. On the left-hand column is I open up your site. Helpful hints, thank you. Yeah, links, helpful links, that's what it was. So look for helpful links on the left-hand side, and that comprehensive plan is there. And some of the things y'all have asked about are on there. The gateways that we talked about, heard suggested, the plans, the designs, all that's on there. You can look it up. The top 10 list is on there. And that's really a wonderful thing to see. The other, let me point real quickly at the Chamber of Commerce here and tell you that that's a great organization that has a lot of legs getting things done. And John Aldridge, I would ask you just real briefly to tell us a little about the foundation, and that's coming online this year. So would you comment real quickly and we'll call it a night.
We have formed the foundation for Blowing Rock. It was instigated by the Chamber of Commerce 2 or 3 years ago. We have a 501c3 tax exemption. We've been under the radar so far. You will hear more and more about the Foundation for Blowing Rock. Its mission is economic development in Blowing Rock. The money is a vehicle to hopefully create funding and a reservoir of capital to do a lot of the things that have been discussed here tonight. And it came out of actually the visits to the small towns that we made a couple of years ago, talking to the mayors and the Chamber of Commerce of towns around the high country to see what they're doing and how they've done it. So having a funding source is important to connect our families of means, as some of the older families moved on, that made Blowing Rock what it is today. And so we'll be working to do that, and hopefully it'll be significant over the years.
Very good, thank you. George, I think we're there, and we sure appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and certainly hope that God bless each of you and our little town.
Yes, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. join us at the Blowing Rock Civic Association. You can see our website address, and also you'll be able to see a film of tonight's program on that website address, and we'll try to keep you posted on all useful information possible. Thank you so much, and good night.
Thank you, Doctor.
Stop reading me, go on. I was hoping to continue.
The sun is back out.
Thank you, King. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I think you're good. Yeah, thank you.
The town is disappearing. Tucker, thank you. You said exactly the right tone. Appreciate you asking. Good. Thank you. Good. I thought we'd get some good ideas on the table. I think they did it. Very good. Thanks so much. How are you, boy? Is your brother coming up? No, he... Okay, my wife called Susan to see you. Come on. Which I guess is good. It is good. It's interesting over time how this has all evolved. And I think in the end, God's plan will be wherever his purpose is.